In the early morning mist, two figures emerge, their breath visible in the cold dawn, their swords glinting ominously. This is no friendly meeting, this is a duel. Two men, cloaked in the weight of their honor, their pride, their very lives, stand facing each other. The air crackles with tension, the silence punctuated only by the soft whisper of steel against leather as swords are drawn. This is no ordinary fight, this is a duel, a dance of death, a test of skill and resolve, where only one can emerge victorious. Dueling, a practice as old as time, has been a way for gentlemen to settle their disputes, defend their honor and assert their dominance. It's a game of life and death, where the stakes are high and the price of failure is often fatal. In the golden age of dueling, the rules were strict and the etiquette was paramount. A challenge would be issued, often in the form of a glove slap or a written letter, and the duel would be scheduled for dawn, away from prying eyes. Seconds, trusted friends or family members, would be chosen to ensure the duel was fair and that the rules were followed. The duelists would pace off a set number of steps, turn, and at the agreed signal, the duel would commence. Swords were the weapon of choice, their deadly dance an art form in itself. Precision, speed, and strategy were key. A single misstep, a moment's hesitation, could spell the end. As the sun peaked over the horizon, the duel would reach its climax. A swift parry, a deadly thrust, and suddenly one man would crumble to the ground. The victor, standing tall, would sheathe his sword, his honor intact. But the taste of victory was often bittersweet. As the defeated party fell, the victor's joy was short-lived, for in the world of dueling, victory could mean exile or even death. Dueling, a deadly dance that evolved over centuries, was not always a matter of swords at dawn. Our journey begins in the Middle Ages, where the concept of dueling was born. Back then, it was a brutal and bloody affair, reserved for knights in shining armor. Picture two warriors wrapped in steel with nothing but their swords and their courage to defend their honor. Dueling in those early days was more than a fight. It was a spectacle, a public demonstration of skill and bravery. Knights would challenge each other to single combat, often in front of a crowd, to settle personal disputes or to prove their worth. These duels were not always to that death, but they were always dangerous, a test of strength and endurance where the slightest mistake could mean defeat. As the centuries rolled on, the face of dueling began to change. Swords gave way to rapier and dagger, a shift that demanded more finesse and skill. Dueling was no longer just a knight's game, it became a gentleman's pastime. The rules of engagement became more complex, the etiquette more refined. It was during this time that the concept of first blood came into play, where a duel could be won by simply drawing your opponent's blood first. But the evolution of dueling didn't stop there. The dawn of the 18th century saw another dramatic shift. Swords were replaced with pistols and duels were fought at dawn away from the public eye. The stakes were higher, the danger more immediate, but the principles remained the same. It was still a matter of honor, a challenge that could not be ignored. And so dueling continued to evolve, adapting to the times and the changing notions of honor and justice. It was a dance as old as time, a deadly game played by gentlemen and warriors alike. As time passed, the dueling landscape transformed, with pistols replacing swords and honor replacing immediate justice. Among the many duels in history, none is more infamous than the duel between Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr. The year was 1804. A nascent United States was still defining its identity. Two of its most illustrious citizens, Alexander Hamilton, a founding father, and Aaron Burr, the sitting vice president, found themselves locked in a deadly dance of honor. Where political rivalry and personal animosity crossed swords, a duel was the inevitable consequence. The venue was the heights of Weehawken, New Jersey, a popular dueling ground due to its seclusion. Dawn broke on July 11th as Hamilton and Burr, accompanied by their seconds, set foot on this fateful ground. The Code Duello governed the proceedings, a set of rules dictating the conduct of a gentlemanly duel. Hamilton, known for his fiery temperament, had a reputation to uphold. Burr, on the other hand, was a seasoned veteran of the dueling field. The stakes were high, the tension palpable. As the seconds counted down, the two men took their places, pistols aimed. The shots rang out almost simultaneously. Hamilton's bullet missed, hitting a tree. Burr's, however, found its mark. Hamilton fell, mortally wounded. He was carried back to New York, where he died the next day, leaving behind a legacy of political brilliance and a nation in mourning. The aftermath of this duel was profound. Burr, though he had won the duel, found himself vilified and his political career in shambles. Hamilton in death became a martyr, his ideals immortalized. This tragic event sparked a turning point in American society. It brought into focus the barbarity of dueling and led to a public outcry against the practice. The Hamilton-Burr duel became a symbol of the senseless violence that honor could incite. It marked the beginning of the end for dueling in America. Hamilton fell, and with him the practice of dueling began to lose its footing in the New World. The death of Hamilton marked a turning point for dueling, but the legacy of this deadly dance is far from forgotten. In the wake of tragic duels like that of Hamilton and Burr, public sentiment began to shift. Dueling, once seen as a noble way to settle disputes, was increasingly viewed as senseless bloodshed. The honor and valor associated with it began to be overshadowed by the senselessness of the loss. The tide was turning against this once glorified tradition. As the 19th century progressed, legal measures were put in place to curb dueling. Laws were enacted making it a punishable offense, and even the church stepped in, with the Pope excommunicating duelists. The courts began to treat duels as premeditated murder, and dueling fell out of favor, yet it didn't disappear overnight. It lingered in the shadows, a ghost of a bygone era. Even as dueling declined, its influence on our culture and society remained potent. The concept of an eye for an eye, the idea that one's honor could be defended through physical combat, left a lasting impact. It shaped our understanding of justice, of bravery, of honor. Dueling may have ceased, but its legacy lived on. Look around and you'll see echoes of dueling in our everyday lives, in our courtrooms where opposing sides engage in a battle of wits and evidence, a duel of a different kind. In our sports where teams face off in a test of skill and endurance. In our stories where the hero and the villain clash in a final showdown. The spirit of dueling, the intense personal confrontation, the testing of one's mettle, the pursuit of justice or honor has been woven into the fabric of our society. It's reflected in our language in phrases like fighting for justice, defending one's honor, or a battle of wits. Though the duels have ended, the echoes of steel against steel, the unflinching gaze of opponents, and the deadly dance for honor continue to resonate through history.